Chronicles of DS. Welcome. Let's get straight into it. As you can tell from the description box, what you doing?
The description box.
We are going to tap into something that's quite close to my sister, and seeing that we are still in the month of August and we are slowly approaching the anniversary of Uyinen's death, I thought it was quite I don't want to say appropriate, but we just wanted to share what happened to her and to actually bring light into the situation, because it does happen and it hits even harder when it happens close to home. So today I'm going to be listening as well, because we want to hear exactly what happened from the source herself. So yes, Sandrine, do you want to get into it and tell us your side of the story and the events that took place on the day?
Hi. This is quite sensitive. So I'm gonna refrain from giving too much detail. That is only because my case is still under investigation. Also, we are taking into consideration that we do have quite a few young subscribers.
Yeah.
So we don't want to give too much details into everything. But let me jump into it. So on Friday the 13th of September at 7 p.m. I was waiting for my transport to take me to work, because at the time, which was last year, I was working full-time and studying full-time. So because I was working for an American company, I was working for the hours, yeah? So I'm standing and I'm waiting for my transport. It's quite lively because it's 7 p.m. I mean, those who live in Cape Town know, like, it's not dead. So there were people around. But anyway, so a motor vehicle comes and it's not my transport. And I swear it took like 2.5 seconds from point A and for me to be inside that car. And when I got into the car, I wasn't quite, it's like it took quite a bit for me to understand that this has just happened, if that makes sense. And so I'm in the car and I immediately get told like what is expected of me. I should give off my bag, which I had, my valuable items, and then I was expected to be in a certain position inside. So we're gonna call the person who was driving driver, or guy number 1, and then guy number 2 is the guy who was with me at the back in
the motor vehicle.
Yeah, in the motor vehicle. So passenger vibes, yeah. So guy number 2 tells me, hey, listen, you have to like posture yourself. So I had to sit somewhat leaning to the back so that the windows, no one was able to like so-called see me. And then guy number 1, which is the driver, of course, he did not see me. He just kept driving. He didn't turn around at all. So my nerves were wrecking because the driver had already was not speaking much. Guy number 2 had a knife, and he's already telling me, open your bag and take out everything. So I take out my bag, I give him everything he's desiring. I literally just threw it at him. And now we're driving and we get to a place where there is like a turn, like do you call it circles? Yeah. And at that circle is when he then starts telling me that I need to get undressed. So I'm in a state already, because at first I thought, okay, maybe it's just a quick robbery act, yeah? So I'm told to get undressed. So because of my nerves, I was shivering. So guy number 1, driver, starts driving slowly and now turns around with a gun, and he's like, you better do it quickly if you don't want to get hurt. And I was shivering. So it was a bit difficult for me to get undressed. So guy number 2 is now helping me take off my clothes. And I had leggings on and a t-shirt, and of course like 2 hoodies because it was late at night. So he's helping me now take these clothes off. And I think that's when, like in 30 minutes of being with him, that's when I started being sexually assaulted. And I was being sexually assaulted, and time was going on. And we got to a point where they now needed money for fuel. So we stopped somewhere. They asked me to recite my bank PIN. I had to recite it 10 times because if I had made a mistake, then of course that would be, my fault according to them. So I recite my PIN 10 times. Guy number one, driver, gets out of the car, gets to this petrol station, and I'm staying at the back now with guy number two, and he's still busy with me. He's doing everything he can, touching everywhere he can. And I'm not allowed to even make a sound because we are in the public. Guy number one returns with a few money. He wasn't able to take as much as he wanted because it was vibrant. It's Friday night and a lot of people party on Fridays.
Yeah.
So he comes back and we drive off again. We're driving and I'm still being assaulted. So because I was already naked, there's nothing he could not touch. Okay, so I'm not going to go into detail about where and what he touched. We drove and he stopped again. They took more money. We drove, he stopped again, took more money. And then I think at that time that's when they were having a conversation in the car now in their native language, of course, because I've been here for a long time, I could understand.
Yeah.
And they are now deciding, okay, so what do we now do with her? So guy number two says, but I don't want to get rid of her because I can't get rid of such a girl. Like, I have to have her for myself. So, because he had a knife, he let me out of the car with the knife. So I'm naked, and the only thing he gave me back was I had a hand, like a throw, yeah. So he gave me my throw, and then he gave me back my leggings and my t-shirt. So my hoodies and my bag and everything else was still in the car. So we get out, and now we're walking, and the area where the car is parked, there is a big open field. All you see are trees, grass. There's not even like a whisper of a cat or a dog. Literally, it's this vacant area with just nature. And right there, I had, because I'm a believer, so side note, I made the confession. I said, God, if it is your will that I die today, then so be it. Because I'd been with him for so many hours and had already been sexually assaulted for so many hours, and at that time I didn't know how long it had been. Already, you start losing, can I say, hope?
Yeah.
So we in this open field, and the guy driver number one is patrolling, like watching what we are doing. So he has the gun pointed out of his frame, and the guys with the knife telling him, kiss me, and of course. Me being me, I couldn't. So it was more like, you do it or we kill you, you do it or we kill you.
Yeah.
And I forcibly was like, doing certain things. And then it got to a point where he now made me lay like in the grass. Like literally, I saw like, listen, this is happening. So I laid in the grass with the guy. And out of nowhere, I tell you, no word of a lie, out of nowhere, driver shouts guy number two's name and calls him back. So in like 2 seconds, guy number two gets off me and runs back to the car. I didn't know what was happening at the time. So I'm standing up and I'm just naked in this open field, and I see this big, like white colored man standing in the field, and I'm like, am I seeing, like, is this man really here, or am I like, am I imagining? Like, I'm looking so much for like somebody to rescue me that I'm starting to imagine that he's there. Eventually this big guy comes and he asked me like, is that your boyfriend? Did your boyfriend just leave you? And in those two, I literally broke down, and I think that's when the guy realized that something is not right here. So he takes the blanket, he wraps it around me, and he tells me, I don't live in this area. I literally just came to patrol, but let us walk and find the first house. And the first house is where we're gonna knock and call the cops. And he wraps me, we walk, we get to this house, and there's an old man and you can see this old man has somewhat, I think, dementia because he couldn't. Eventually, the man who rescued me, spoke to him and get into the house, and the guys wanted the cops and they asked me if he wanted. I was so confused with reality and what had just happened that it took a few minutes for me to like come back and then realize that okay, I'm okay, like I'm alive and I'm not dead. And I think that's when I called. I managed to like call.
So my mom's phone rings, right? So we all be sitting in, for some kind of reason we were all in the house that day. It's very rare to find all of us in the house together. So I'm sitting next to my mom and my mom's phone rings. And everybody that knows my mom, she does not pick up numbers, she doesn't know. So I look at the phone, there's somebody's phone, just pick it up. I pick it up and then I immediately knew it was her. I knew it was her. So she's crying and I can't make out anything that she's saying. And I put it on loudspeaker and everybody around me starts to freak out. So when everybody's freaking out, there has to be one person that tries and keeps it together. So I'm trying to listen to her and at the same time I'm trying to like get her out of that shock so that I can get the information she's trying to tell me. I might have been a little bit insensitive, but I just went into what's the word? Cope mode. Not cope mode, but like I went into action. Like, what are we doing? Something wrong with my sister? What am I doing? Do you get? So then I asked her, I'm like, what's happening? Where are you? She's like, I just got kidnapped. But I'm thinking to myself, you just got kidnapped, but you're talking to me. So I'm trying to make sense of everything, but it's not making sense. However, all I knew was I needed to make sure that wherever she was, that we were there immediately. I spoke. They gave the phone to the lady, the daughter of that house. Then I spoke to her. She gave me the address and everything, and then I said thank you so much. And they gave me another number to contact. She did mention that her parents are a little bit sick, so I should rather than contact her. And God bless their soul for the rest of their lives, because the daughter kept saying that she doesn't know us and how does she trust us coming to her parents' house? And I said, we will be there in 2 seconds and we're gonna leave. Like, please, like, we're not like, you're trying to convince a complete stranger that you are not a harmful person, yet there's a lot of commotion happening in your house. So I remember my mom and my brother, like my younger brother Blaze he just went like, wait, what? And he went, oh, I remember, am I allowed to even say this? You know what, I can. He literally took a knife and he walked out of the house with my mom. And obviously I had to stay behind with my kid. And then they drove, and you are at home, you're not knowing what's happening, what exactly took place, etc., etc. In an hour and a half or so, after they went to the police station, they made the statements, etc., my sister came home. And I could tell that in as much as she was physically there, like, you could tell that she had just been through a life-changing experience, you get? And I know my sister, she's very strong, she's a very, very strong woman, but she's also got a very pure and sweet small heart. I always like to say that. So I couldn't imagine what had happened, and I didn't want to ask her what had happened because I could like imagine that everybody had asked her what happened, and so I just wanted her to just get in bed and sleep and talk about it the next day. And I remember the thing that kept sticking to her was the fact that she didn't want to be touched. Do you get? And where we come from, everybody wants to know your business. Do you get? So I know for the next weeks or so, she had to relive the story all the time. And even though she didn't want to do that, but it was almost like out of respect for the people that came to see her, like to like tell her like what happened, etc., etc. So I don't want to make this about my feelings and my emotions because it's really about her. And she even, her university even recommended her
So because just to retract, I was sexually assaulted for 7 hours because it was from 7, and then I only got reached by the cops around like after 2. So I was being sexually assaulted for 7 hours, and then when we got to the police station, it took like almost 2 hours because it's a sexual assault. There are other things that are involved. Yeah. So by the time I got home, because I knew the amount of stress, or I don't know, I tried to be the strong-willed person and pretend that I'm okay, but physically I wasn't, because I also had like I started bleeding out like unnecessarily. I couldn't sleep, you know. I had a lot of things that I was going through at the time. So, and because of my studies at the time, it affected everything. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't think. I couldn't do. Literally, I couldn't do anything. So my school then recommended I see a counselor just to help me come back to myself, if that makes sense. Yeah. So I had therapy, and I was diagnosed with anxiety and depression. I cannot explain. Well, we'll see how it goes. If people do want me to explain about how I felt and the things that I tackled with in the process. But I was seeing a therapist, and because I am a believer, if not for God, I would not at all be sitting here, because it takes everything out of you to want to see another day. It did take a lot, because like Dolphin said, our community is so small and everybody wants to know, and having to repeat the story over and over and over again did not help me with my healing process. And I struggled to be myself, and I think that's when my depression then kicked in, because I always wanted to be alone. I've never, till today, truthfully, I prefer being alone, because it takes so much from you to, I don't know how to explain it. To find affection not only from your family but from men again is another story. Hopefully, I don't know how this will go, but
hopefully in part 2 we're gonna discuss, like she said, like the emotional side of things, how the family was, how we are, and how she is actually doing now, and we can talk about that in part 2. And then so let us know if you want us to continue discussing this. But overall, I know our story has a happy ending, or let's say Sandrine's story has a happy ending, because in as much as that horrible thing happened to her, she's still alive and breathing. Yet there are many who don't make it. There are many who get killed. There are many who are still missing out there. So for her to have to come back home and in one piece, that is something that we owe to God each and every single day.